Hello everyone and welcome to another very exciting episode here on the MIgardener channel. I know you all are going to love this one. We've got with us the 87-year-old tomato. So I wanted to clear up a few things that have been brought up in the past videos in the comments section. Number one, no, this tomato plant itself is not 87 years old. It was started from 87-year-old seed. If you've not yet seen that video, we basically bought a shadow box that contained old seed from 87 years ago, and what we did is we soaked the seed in airtight containers in real sterile environment, and we were lucky enough to get a couple to sprout. We actually had some radishes that sprouted as well as this tomato. This tomato was the only one of the batch that was able to sprout. We had a couple that formed roots, but never ever germinated. So this one is the only one in existence. It went extinct in about 1940. So that's about all we know. It was bred out of existence when the beefsteak came around, because the beefsteak was a far more reliable and dependable variety. It is a beefsteak variety tomato. As to whether or not it's determinate or indeterminate is still unknown. There's not a whole lot of information out there about it. With that being said, we have a ton of flowers on this thing. We brought it outside. The flowers are exploding. It is just fruiting and they are huge. So we got to get this thing transplanted because I cannot have this thing flowering this much, otherwise it'll be overly stressed. So what I need to do is I need to move it from this 1-gallon pot into this 5-gallon air pruning pot here, smart pot. Now, another question keeps coming up a lot is why are you keeping it in such a contained pot? The reason is because I do not like, when I'm growing tomatoes, I do not like to move them just into a massive container right away because it's really unnecessary. The soil actually holds on to too much moisture, and that's where you're very likely to get things like blights and diseases. The plant might be slightly stressed in a smaller container, but I would personally take slightly stressed over blight ridden, because blight, once you have it, it's almost impossible to eradicate. So I'm going to simply prune off all of the kind of yellower leaves, move it into a larger pot. I've re-amended I'm actually using ProMix for this. Actually, ProMix is in this one as well, but this is a sifted ProMix. This was our seed starter mix, and I just had that on hand, so I filled this pot with it. But this is unsifted ProMix with some trifecta added, and that's going to give it more nutrients and more energy. So another thing that we're going to do is we are going to come through here and prune off the suckers, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those suckers, I'm going to take them inside, set them in a mason jar of water, and I'm just going to propagate them. So they're going to form roots, and then that way I can have even more plants. All right, so finally there's two questions that I want to answer before we get started, and that is about the production and the flowering and fruit production. The first one is, will you be bagging flowers? The answer is not yet. We don't have to, not yet at least, because we have 24 different varieties of tomatoes, but they're not flowering yet. And the thing about tomato blossoms is that they are extremely hard to cross-pollinate because of the fact they have male and female sex organs within the flower itself. So cross-pollination is almost always done on a manual basis. It's not something that just happens, at least not with 15, 20 feet of separation. There's just not a whole lot of cross-pollination that happens. The cross-pollination that might happen is if there was a plant 3 or 4 feet away, but still, once our tomato plants start flowering, to be 100% sure, we will begin bagging the flowers. Now, on the topic of preserving genetics, the question comes up, will you be selling seed? And the answer is yes, but cautiously. We can't say when, we can't say how much, we can't say, or not, they'll be 99 cents, they'll be in the seed store if we have them, but we can't say how many seeds, we can't say how many packs per person yet. That really all is up in the air, and it's based on our discretion, because you have to understand, we're not worried about the money behind it. We're not worried about the financial gains. We've put in a ton of time, a ton of research, and rightfully we should be rewarded for that. However, our first and foremost objective is to protect the genetic diversity of this variety. And so we're not just going to, we're not going to mass produce this tomato just for that gain. We want to be extremely particular about how we cultivate it, how we keep it growing. Again, bagging flowers all the time. It's not going to be something we can do recklessly, because we're doing just fine with over 300 varieties in the seed store, and 301, that next variety, being this one, won't make a massive difference to us whatsoever. This right here is something that we consider kind of our mission, which is to save genetic diversity. And on that final note is, people ask, why don't you send it to other seed-saving organizations? The problem with those seed-saving organizations is that the seed always ends up in seed stores if they don't have a seed store themselves. And so they go out, they spend research and development money, they go out, they find unique varieties, they pay for breeders to breed varieties. They do that so that they can have stuff to sell. And since we have a seed store ourselves, and we've put in the time, the effort, and the resources to do so, I see absolutely no reason why we should not be the ones to be rewarded for that time and effort and resources that we've put into this, rather than giving it to somebody else where they're going to do the exact same thing. So it's not necessarily that I'm greedy, it's just that I'm pretty confident that with the tomatoes we save and the seeds we save and the people we give them to, it will have an exact same effect as anyone else doing it. So that's all I have to say about that. So with that out of the way, we're going to put it in a 5-gallon net pot, or a 5-gallon air pruning pot here. So coming in close, and let's prune off some of these suckers. We'll take those inside, get this potted up, and that should be it for the 87-year-old tomato update. Let's go. It's got 3, 4, 5 blossoms there. A massive cluster of blossoms here. This one actually had a super bloom, another super bloom. These are going to be huge tomatoes here, and then a cluster of 4 blossoms there. There's also another cluster of blossoms here with like 4 or 5 blossoms. So this thing is really doing well. It's exceeding my expectations thus far. But we need to get this kind of pruned up and get some of the suckers taken off so it can really focus on fruit production, and then take the suckers to propagate those. So yeah, let's get that potted up. And also in terms of staking, we will be staking this with a post, but I did not want to stake it just yet, because I wanted to test its sturdiness on its own. That's something that would determine good genetics, if it could kind of stand up on its own, or if it needed support. If it really did stand up on its own quite well, most likely it's a determinant variety, and it has good stabilization genetics where naturally the plant would know how to stand up on its own. Some of your more modern day varieties, they couldn't stand up even if you told them their life depended on it. All right, so here's my dilemma. I'm gonna have to take off some of these flowers here. That is future fruit production, but I'm actually going to take this sucker here. It's a good sucker. And then I'm going to look for another sucker here. So I am single stemming this tomato plant as I go, but it has branched off into many other stems. So as I said before, I am letting this, see there's some more flowers there. I gotta take those off just for now. But we'll let those root inside. And so as I stated before, I'm letting this kind of branch out and bush out, and even though, there we go, and even though they have flowers, like this one has some flowers forming too, that little immediate set of flowers is what I talked about when I said I'm not going to mass produce this. I'm really going to be very selective with making sure that I have plants, because I'd rather have 4 or 5 plants than have one plant with a bunch of, a bunch of fruit on it. Oh yeah, oh, this plant is super healthy. Look at that root system, absolutely stunning. It's awesome, very healthy plant. All right, I'm just gonna, had a little too high there. And also other people ask me if I'm going to be burying this plant deeper. I will not be planting this plant deeper. Reason being is it's not necessary. That's in a pot, in a container like this, I could plant it deeper, but it's already so mature, it's already fruiting. It's not going to have a massive benefit from being planted much deeper. It's already got a very healthy root system. And from here, we'll go into a 10-gallon smart pot once this one has been outgrown. So there you go. There is an update on the 87-year-old tomato. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new, and post your comments in the comments box below. I read all of them, so it's fun to see how excited you are about this, and it's certainly something that we are very excited about as well. So until next time, hopefully you all enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new, and we'll talk to you all later. Remember to go big or go home. See ya. Bye.